It's the 27th of the 3rd, 2024, and it's not half getting a bit techie for Danny Ric again, is it? Because Dr. Helmut Marko in his weekly article with Speedweek has absolved Danny Ric of responsibility for his underperformance at the Australian GP, saying that on a lap that ultimately got cancelled for track infringement, Danny Ric was within a tenth of his teammate Yuki Tsunoda. But owing to the penalty that he'd received for his track infringement soon thereafter and the engine change, Dr. Helmut Marko says that Danny Ric's race was over before it began. His speed, though, continued the Austrian, has improved. But critically for Daniel, Yuki on the other side of the garage is racing at a very high level. Franz Tostenay, continues Marko, always believed in Yuki, and thus far this season he's been pitch perfect. Because while Tsunoda's speed has never been in doubt, he was prone once upon a time to a cheeky unforced error or two, a rogue outburst over the radio that he lacked control. But all of that stuff, says Marko, is a thing of the past for Gazy, and proof positive of that is his 7th place last weekend. So Marko wasn't anywhere near as scathing as he has been in recent times in his characterisation of Danny Ric's underperformance. But that doesn't mean to say that rumour isn't still abound about Danny Ric's future, with reports now walking back any talk of an ultimatum. The consensus was a full start. But that notwithstanding, Marko doesn't rule out a mid-season driver switch should Danny Ric's performance fail to improve, as one Liam Lawson stays looking at his phone waiting for that call. But if F1's a meritocracy, Danny Ric's comments during Q2 are worrying, because the race's Ed Straw reported overhearing Danny Ric remarking that he couldn't do what Yuki Tsunoda did even with track evolution. In terms of their absolute pace, Yuki Tsunoda had Danny Ric under manners, and Danny knew it. This then for the Australians' future prospects, deeply concerning. For the Australians' future prospects know his very career as an F1 driver. This is deeply concerning. And in other news, brake manufacturer Brembo have chimed in on what they think was the root cause of all of Max Verstappen's reliability issues. Brembo absolved themselves from all reliability, blaming instead Red Bull's setup choices, expanding that the cause of the right rear binded brake couldn't have been their materials or components, nor could it have been attributable to component anomalies or material malfunctions. Likely story, chaps. The Bulls that are red, though, they've yet to corroborate this story, and perhaps because it's false, they never will. Lest we forget, this is the second time in 3 races that brake disc failure has reared its ugly head. Leclerc fell foul first via glazed disc. Max was second of 2. This then wasn't the first brake issue, nor, methinks, will it be the last. And in other news, on the back of an incredible drive from Carlos Sainz Jr., many are saying that this is his coming out party, equivalent to one Max Verstappen's drive at Brazil in 2016, say. And Martin Brundle concurs, saying he was the hero of the day for the second time in 2 races. Brundle continues, when I chatted to him before the race, he looked perturbed, fragile even. His movement much slower than normal after his appendicitis operation. But there was nothing slow moving about his race pace, for he was sensational throughout. Brundle continued that Sainz will be jobless next year, but the Australian Grand Prix was one hell of an advert for his talents, especially when you bear in mind, had he driven in Jeddah, he'd probably be leading the championship. Oof. And this begs the question then, in letting Carlos Sainz go, did Ferrari make the right move? Indeed, if bang for your buck is a thing in F1, could you argue that Sainz represents better value than Hamilton as of March 2024? And this is the thought experiment that Sky Sports' Craig Slater puts forth. On present form, who would you choose? And with speculation rife currently around Carlos Sainz's next destination, one name that's often mentioned is Red Bull. One outlet reports, however, that Red Bull have their eye on another Spaniard, one Fernando El Plan Alonso. The report claims that Verstappen already knew which teammate to expect to join him in 2025. That talks between Red Bull and Alonso, whose contract ends with Aston Martin in 2025, are already advanced. And key in all this is Christian Horner, who's long been a fan of Fernando Alonso, because this wouldn't be the first time that Horner's tried to sign Alonso. As early as 2013, he fancied Fernando to replace one Mark Webber. Mateschitz and Marko poo-pooed the suggestion, however, claiming that Alonso doesn't fit in with the Red Bull philosophy. Verstappen and Alonso, Red Bull. Oof. In other news, there's a groundswell of optimism around Scuderia Ferrari. The hope is that they've now solved for the tyre deg issues that have plagued them for the past 24 months. That Monegasque Leclerc has matured and can make a decision. That Carlos Sainz is now fast. That now they have a well-drilled pit crew, one that doesn't make mistakes. And most critically, a car built upon a chassis that's malleable, predictable now. And team principal Frederick Vasseur speaks to this, saying that this year's SF24 was born with the opposite characteristics, that it's completely different as a package to last year's iteration. For the avoidance of doubt, it has an excellent predictable front end, lots of aerodynamic load. Indeed, the car's a market leader, particularly in the medium to high speed turns. And most critically in Melbourne, they were able to determine that its performance window, it's wide, easily accessible, snap oversteer mixed with the sudden onset of understeer, a la the W15. That's a thing of the past for Ferrari. In Melbourne this weekend past, no one said Frederick Vasseur managed to find the balance like Ferrari, and had this been a sprint weekend, it would have been even more evident. As versus last year, the car's just much more drivable, easier for the drivers and for us to develop too. And we hope, continues Fred, that this is the key for us to improving this season and ultimately challenging the bulls that are red. And after the fact, even Charles Leclerc has chimed in, indeed fanning the flames of hopium. He said that as early as FP1 we knew that we had a car capable of winning the Australian Grand Prix. We of course being code for Carlos Sainz Jr. Charles said after the race that it's been a long time since we had the pace to keep Red Bull under control, but on the back of our race pace and tyre deg or lack thereof, we knew we'd have enough to at least challenge for a race victory. And that, says the Monegasque, is an encouraging sign. And for those of us who, like Ted Kravitz, believe that variety, not monotony, is the spice of life and are invested in a competitive season, the current championship standings make fantastic reading. Since 3 soon-to-be 4-time champion Max Verstappen has 51 points, leading Charles Leclerc by 4. And that's quite close. Similarly, in the constructors, Red Bull lead on 97 points, but only 4 points adrift comes Scuderia Ferrari. And Checo confirmed from his first-hand experience on track just how quick he thought the Ferraris were. For the Mexican Minister of Defense hypothesized, even if Max hadn't had an issue, that Ferrari would still have won that race. But one can't help but think that the genuine test of just how competitive Ferrari are this year will come at the next Grand Prix in Japan. Suzuka. Because for the man of the moment, one Carlos Sainz Jr., Suzuka has been a bit of a bogey track. Around this track he's had 7 outings in total, not a podium to speak of. And for the avoidance of doubt, Helmut Marko has made it clear that Red Bull won't be messing around at Suzuka, saying that we now look forward to the Japanese Grand Prix in 2 weeks' time, where we'll look to continue our form from the first 2 races. For those that know, continues Marko, Suzuka is an extreme driver's track, where Max should set the record straight for others. Oh, good luck beating this Verstappen chap in Suzuka. And to be fair, finishing 1 and 2 in Australia does bode well for Ferrari. Every year that's happened previously, that team's gone on to win both championships, drivers and constructors. The last time this happened was 2019, and that was Mercedes. And in less positive news, Mercedes team principal one Toto Wolff has expressed that he wanted to punch himself on the back of a double DNF in Australia. What? Toto said he was left struggling to see the positive side when both his drivers retired from the Grand Prix. Yeah, mate, you and me both. He expanded that the outfit's continued problems left him wanting to punch himself in the nose. What did he just say? At the moment, says Wolff, it's a very tough time. As co-owner of this business, I need to make sure that my contribution is positive. The problem, he continues, that Mercedes face is one of physics. It's not organisational, nor is it philosophical. We haven't just taken a dumb pill since 2021. It's just that we don't understand some of the car's behaviours. But here's where it gets techie, because you'll remember that last year Wolff said at the age of 52 he's going to start to scale back his on-track activities. Lest we forget that he's been in charge of the outfit from Brackley and Brixworth since 2013, the outfit of which he owns 33%. But here's where it gets really techie, because Wolff suggested that after such an underperformance at the Australian Grand Prix, it's fair to call into question his leadership and moreover his future as team principal. Excuse me, sir, what are you suggesting here, Toto? Now, we all saw the episode on Drive to Survive that chronicled Toto Wolff, the family man, the father of a karting son, the husband of a loving wife. Some say that you don't play F1 and to have one foot out the door is to already have left. No further questions, Your Honour.